We as human beings were created for God's pleasure. It is one of the primary reasons of our existence is to be able to please God with the life that we live. In this video, I want to share with you how we can please God and some of the challenges that get in the way of us being able to fully live a life that pleases Him. All right, so there are two main hindrances that get in the way of us really pleasing God, and that is our dispensation to please man or our dispensation to please ourselves, the fleshly desires that we have. Galatians chapter 5 verse 17 says, "For the desire of the flesh are against the spirit, and the desires of the spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other to keep you from doing the things that you want to do." So there is an awesome regeneration process that occurs when we come to know the Lord. But there still is inside of us, in our flesh, this desire to do things that are not according to the will of God. And so the process of sanctification is day in and day out putting ourselves before God and watching those areas of our life that used to be so strong become weakened more and more and more. So, one of the things that we need to continue to concentrate on in this journey of pleasing God is saying no to our flesh, saying no to those sinful desires. And this is a daily thing that you are going to have to do. This isn't something where you just kind of say, "I'm just going to cast off my flesh now once and for all," and that's it. I believe that there is power in declaring our desire to cast off the desires of the flesh, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a day in and day out battle that you're going to need to confront, that you're going to need to continue to bring to the Lord. And there's almost a dimension of grace that's required just to do that, just to bring yourself before the Lord continually like that. So the second main hindrance that's going to keep you from fully pleasing the Lord is our desire to please man. Galatians chapter 1 verse 10 says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." Make no mistake about it, the desire to please God is going to come into direct conflict with our desire to please man. And there's kind of two different fronts on this. There is the desire to please people who don't believe in the Lord, non-Christians, not wanting to be seen as like weird or different from them. But then there's also this area of not wanting to fall into pleasing the religious spirit and people who are Christians. And so let me tell you what I mean by both those things. First off, have you ever felt just scared of being kind of the weird Christian in a group? I know that I have plenty of times where I'm in a group of people and I don't want to be kind of seen as that weird religious outball. And so what might happen in those situations, and unfortunately what's happened for me in the past, is I end up, going against some of my morals, going against what I know God is calling me to do in order to kind of fit in, to be one of the guys, to be able to please men in those instances. And so we got to be really careful when we're around non-Christians that we continue to focus on, okay, what is pleasing to God right now? Not so much what can I do to make them like me or to make them accept me, but our focus just needs to continue to stay on what do I need to do to please God with every word I say and every action I take? How can I do that? So now the other side of the coin, pleasing Christians. Now, this might come as a surprise, but really a life fully dedicated to God is going to ruffle the feathers of a lot of religious people, people that are Christians, authentically love the Lord, but just haven't given every single thing to God to fully consecrate their life to Him. They're going to be made uncomfortable by your decisions to fully go after God in a radical way. And so what the tendency happens to be in this case is kind of drawing back a little bit or watering things down so that you're not scaring off other Christians, so that you're not looking weird even to them. And so I've faced this plenty of times. I've got Christian friends of mine who I like really just want to be accepted by, but I know that some of the decisions that I've made that I've really felt, me and my family have felt have been for the Lord, have kind of ruffled their feathers a little bit. Like it just doesn't quite make sense. It's something that they can't fully understand. And it kind of hurts to go to them and be like, hey, this is the decision that we're making, all the while knowing that they're going like, you're a little crazy. There's all that dynamic going on. And so just making sure that at the end of the day, regardless of whether we're in front of Christians or we're in front of non-Christians, our heart is, hey, Jesus, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do in this situation to bring you the greatest pleasure? One of the greatest ways that we can bring pleasure to God is by embracing simple obedience. In 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22, it reads, "But Samuel replied, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams." So this is talking about sacrifices in the Old Testament where they would sacrifice animals to the Lord. But I really think we can draw that same conclusion to the New Testament. The tendency that I often have is I'm going to sacrifice everything for God. I'm going to give it all to you, Lord. But then I find myself disobeying him in a lot of just kind of the simple things of life. And so the danger of that is we can get so cloaked in this radical mindset of we're going to live our full life for Jesus. We're going to sacrifice ourselves. We want to be martyred for the Lord. Like that type of spirit bubbles up, but yet we end up gossiping in the day and disobeying him in just some of those easy, simple ways. And I think that God's saying, like, I love that heart. I love that heart that you want to sacrifice for me. But really, really the most important thing is that you're obeying me. The sacrifice will come if you obey me, but be really centered and focused on that. Don't be focused so much on living this crazy radical life where you're sacrificing everything. Be more focused on obedience, and then that type of radical life for Jesus will follow. This obedience is going to take a daily examination. I'm a big planner and I believe in planning and being prepared for things. But at the end of the day, each morning we wake up, we need to understand what the Lord wants out of us for that day. It may not have been exactly in our plans, but we need to be able to forsake that in order to be obedient to the will of God. I like to call it the ministry of interruptions, being willing to be interrupted for what we thought God was calling us to do at that certain moment, being interrupted by something else that we discern, oh, this is God's will, and being willing to put that to the side so that we can attend to the interruption. Being obedient to the Lord also involves making sure that we are not doing anything more than he's asking us to do or anything less that he's asking us to do. Now, this can be a really difficult thing to discern, so just give yourself some grace in this process. But really, truly continue to think day in and day out, what is God calling me to today? And then really, it's simple, but it's not easy. Just do that. I tend to be the one that overcomplicates stuff. I like to kind of go well beyond and above probably what the Lord's asking me to do. So that's my challenge. And so if it's merely just sitting at his feet and praying and reading his word and just hanging out with my family that day, that could very well be what the Lord designed for that day. And I need to be obedient to that. My desire is, oh, what can I produce? How can we further the ministry? How can we grow the prayer movement in the Illinois Valley? Those are all great things, but if he's not asking me to be directly involved in that on that day, or if I'm going beyond the scope of what he's calling me to do in that season, like that's me being disobedient to God just as much as me not doing the things that God is asking me to do. So finally, we need to just land on what our success is as a human being. Our success ultimately boils down to being loved by God and loving him in return. That's it. That's the foundational principle of our success. Now, that goes so much against our westernized productivity way of thinking, because we like to measure our success based on statistical data. We like to say, oh, I spent 2 hours on this project and this is what I accomplished. That stuff's good, and I believe that is necessary in furthering the kingdom and in proclaiming the gospel. But at the end of the day, what is your heart's desire? What is the dream of your heart? Is it to build this awesome, fantastic ministry? Or is it to love the Lord with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, and with all of your strength? You want to be rooted and grounded in this love. That's got to be, at the end of the day, what we want over anything else. And I believe that a heart that truly desires that above any performance-related thing, above any tangible things that we can see in ministry, that is the heart that truly pleases God. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe below. Make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be updated anytime we post new content. And also, please comment down below if there's anything that really, struck a chord with you. I would love to hear about it. We make sure to respond to all the comments that get left. And take some time and just get before the Lord. This is my challenge to you. Just get before the Lord and say, Jesus, what is it that would be most pleasing to you today? Don't even think about the next year or your entire life. There's times and seasons for that, but I'm just saying, just do it for today. Say, God, how could I most please you today? And then do everything in your power to obey him.